Hi everybody. So this week's video is going to be about factoring trinomials. It's called a trinomial because there are three terms there. There's x squared is a term, bx is a term, and c is a term. And we're going to be factoring these and essentially going in the reverse of what we did with FOIL a couple weeks ago. And so just to review that, remember a couple weeks ago we had problems that looked like this, where it was x plus 3 times x plus 4, and we would have to FOIL this to simplify it, meaning we would just double distribute. We'd multiply x times x, then we'd multiply x times 4, then 3 times x, and then we'd multiply 3 times 4. I'd like to write like that. And so then we'd end up with x times x was x squared, x times 4 was 4x, 3 times x was 3x, and then 3 times 4 was 12. And then notice that the middle two terms are like terms. 3x and 4x are like terms, and so we could add those two together, and we get x squared plus 7x plus 12. That's what we did a couple weeks ago. This week we're going to go in the other direction. We're going to start with problems that look like this, and we're going to move to problems that look like this. And so the way that we do that is we reverse engineer what we just did. Okay? And what we do is we look at the way that the last term is created and the way that the middle term is created. Okay? The last term, the 12, here and here, is created by multiplying the 3 times 4. And then the 7 is created by adding the 4x and the 3x, which is the 3 and the 4. Okay? And so what we actually end up with then, in reverse engineering this, is I need to find two numbers that when multiplied, or known as the product, okay? The product of the two numbers has to be the last term, and the middle number is the sum of the two numbers, or when you added them together. Okay, so you find two numbers that multiply to equal the last number, add to equal the middle number, and you can reverse engineer and get to this number, or get to this expression. So let's see what I'm looking at here, or what we're talking about here. Okay, I've got this equation here. I want to factor this. Okay, x squared minus 11x plus 30. Okay, going in the same pattern that we just did a second ago, I want to find two numbers that when multiplied equal the last number. Okay, so they need to be the product. Okay, the product has to equal 30, and the sum has to be negative 11. Okay, some of you probably already thought of this, or thought of what they are, but let's say we can't just think of those real quick. We're going to kind of just work out this whole thing here. I'm going over here to the side. I'm going to write out all the factors of 30. Okay, and since I need those two factors to add up to equal a negative 11, I'm going to make sure I need to have some negative factors in here. So to multiply to get to 30, well, I can take negative 1 times negative 30, right? That equals 30. I can take negative 1 or negative 2 times negative 15, that equals 30. I can take negative 3 times negative 10, that equals 30. I can take negative 5 times negative 6, that equals 30. Okay? All those are my factors of 30 that have negatives in them, where they'll equal a negative number when I add them together. And so now I look at the product, look at the sum of those terms. Well, negative 1 plus negative 30 is negative 31 when I add those together, so that doesn't help me. Negative 2 plus negative 15 is negative 17. That doesn't help me because I need these to add up to negative 11. Negative 3 plus negative 13, or negative 10 is negative 13, so that doesn't help me. Negative 5 plus negative 6. Hey, look at that. Negative 5 plus negative 6 is negative 11. And so I can stop right there, and I can say, well, this has to factor now to x minus 5 times x minus 6. because those are two factors that multiply to equal 30, but add to equal negative 11. And that's essentially all there is to this process. I'm going to work one more example with you, and then leave it at that. X squared plus 4x minus 12. Again, I need two numbers that multiply to equal negative 12, but add to equal a positive 4. And so out here to the side, I'm going to write out my factors of negative 12. And we can end up with a lot of these because these two numbers have to multiply to equal a negative. So one has to be positive, and one of them has to be negative. Okay, so I can have 1 times negative 12, that equals negative 12. Negative 1 times positive 12. 2 times negative 6. Negative 2 times positive 6. 3 times negative 4. Negative 3 times positive 4. Okay, those are all my factors of negative 12. Two numbers that multiply together to equal negative 12. And now I look at those factors and I try to find the two factors that when I add them together, they equal a positive 4. Well, 1 and negative 12 is negative 11, so that doesn't help. Negative 1 and 12 is positive 11, that doesn't help. 2 and negative 6, that's negative 4. I need to be positive 4, so that doesn't help. Negative 2 and 6, there's my positive 4. And so I don't have to worry about these other ones. I found my combination that I'm looking for, a negative 2 and a positive 6. And so I know that immediately this is going to factor to x plus, or x minus 2 or x plus 6, whatever you want to write first. X plus 6 times x minus 2. There's my factored form. I can stop. I'm done. Okay. This week we're only focusing on these where there is no number in front of the x squared. Next week we'll look at trinomials where there is a number in front of x squared, and that makes this process a little bit more complicated, but we can still reverse engineer to get what we need. But this week is kind of the easy way with these, with no number in front of x squared. So go ahead and practice some of these on the practice sheet, and then when you're ready, take the mastery quiz. You can retake it if you need to. Join me on Zoom if you have any questions. Have a great week.